KLRE CJ here. I am here with Jill Erlandson, and we're going to learn a little bit more about who she is, what she loves to do, and learn from her about how she has become a successful agent here at KLRE. Let's jump in.
All right.
Well, first of all, I just want to learn more about Jill Erlandson, which I know it's not. I kind of Facebook stalked you. What was your maiden name?
Bergen.
Bergen.
Which is now my daughter's first name.
Her first name's Bergen.
Her first name's Bergen, yeah.
Is her middle name Bergen? Is it Bergen?
Would that be weird?
I can't.
No, not her middle name.
Weird. But sometimes, the daughters take the maiden name as the middle name.
No, it's Bergen Marie.
Bergen Marie.
Yep.
Okay, let's start there.
Okay.
What does Bergen mean?
Well, so obviously my maiden name is Bergen.
Yeah.
Both my kids are adopted.
Okay.
So our son's birth mother was able to name him.
Yeah.
And ready to get complicated?
Yeah.
Our kids had the same birth mothers.
Okay.
And so we really wanted to name our second child. And because we wanted to kind of live on the Bergen name.
Yeah.
That's how Bergen got her name.
Okay. I'm sorry, when I think of Bergen, I've got kids. I think of...
I know, the Trolls.
The Trolls.
When
the Bergens are coming.
When the Trolls movie came out, I was like, oh boy, here we go. But my Bergen is thrives on it. All the time. She's like, the Bergens are coming. So
that is awesome. But what's her name? Middle name?
Marie.
Bergen Marie
Yep.
Erlandson.
And which is funny because my grandmother, her name was Marie Bergen.
What?
Oh,
okay. So, hey, I mean, we can just stop the interview. That's
all right.
We're
done.
No, thank you for that education of names. And talk about your family. You said you have how many kids?
I have two.
2 kids.
My son is 12 and my daughter's 10.
12 and 10?
Yep.
Okay.
My husband and I have been married. It'll be 17 years in January.
17 years. And you said they're both adopted, same birth mom.
Correct.
Okay. How did you get connected to these kids?
Okay. So this is another follow the timeline.
Yeah.
Do you have a chart I can draw
we
it
might
out?
have to just put some graphics together.
So my husband and I, first of all, we've been dating on and off, mostly on since 7th grade.
Okay.
So we have a lot of history. And we decided that we wanted to adopt. A circumstance of events happened.
Yeah.
And we kind of put our name out there. We were going to start doing the foster program, foster to adopt. And if anybody knows me, my attention span's not very long. Like I want it now.
Yeah.
So we were going through the process, and then all of a sudden I got a call from my aunt. I used to photograph weddings.
Okay.
So I'm sitting photographing a wedding, and my aunt's calling me. I'm like, what is going on? So I call her back. And she's like, my best friend's coworker's daughter is making an adoption plan for her children, or her child at the time. Mm-hmm. Can I give her your number? And I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody says that, right? So she told her, and an hour later I got a call from an adoption agency. And they were like, yeah, can we meet you on Sunday? This was Saturday.
Yeah.
So the next day. And I'm like, holy cow. Met on Sunday. By Wednesday, we found out that we were going to have a son in 6 weeks. And I'm holy smokes. This time last week, I was like, should I have my margarita on the rocks or blended? And now I'm like, I got to get a crib and I got to get this and do all that. So 6 weeks later, our son was born.
So I was going to ask, so the birth mother was pregnant at the time.
Correct.
Wow. I mean, I feel like I had, 9 months to prepare. I can't imagine 6 weeks.
It was crazy. And then
at least you could drink the whole time while you're waiting, right?
That's another weird
so that's
story.
A plus.
Yeah. But then I had to go to my job and so in 6 weeks, I'm having a baby. And I remember my boss looks me up down and she goes, either you're really stupid or there's more to this story. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Not pregnant. And so... yeah.
Well, thanks for inviting us into that. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of stories along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Dating, there's a lot of layers here.
I know.
Dating your husband since you guys were 7th grade.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Bloomington.
Okay. I saw you went to Kennedy.
Yep. So I went to Kennedy. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, my junior year in high school.
During the school year?
During the school year, yeah.
Okay. What does that do to high school sweethearts?
We break up.
Okay. All right.
And then a year after high school,
yeah,
I called my best friend and I was like, I'm moving home. She's like, okay. And literally my husband was sitting on our front step and he's like, we're going to do this again, right?
This is like The Notebook.
Right.
Like we could just like film your life. So many. This is like a Netflix series. Dylan, we're going to make a Netflix series, like
perfect
a documentary. No, it should just be a show about your life.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
Thank you for that. We got to take a lot of notes here. Previous career. Let's start kind of working our way. We started with the childhood stuff, like working backwards. How long you been with KLRE?
It'll be 3 years in May.
3 years in May. And what were you doing prior to that?
I was working for a different real estate company.
Okay. They can go unnamed, but that's how long were you there?
Yep. I was there for 6 years.
6 years. Yeah. And then prior to that?
Prior to that, I was, that's so long ago. I wasn't really doing anything fantastic. I shouldn't say that. Everything is fantastic. In our adoption decree, part of it was that I would stay home with the kids for a certain amount of time. So in order to stay home, I was also doing daycare.
Okay.
And then bartending on the weekends.
What bar?
It's called Hawks Sports Bar in Monticello. Little hole in the wall you wouldn't even know was there. It's kind of like tucked in a neighborhood.
I feel like there's some of our agents like are from out there.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
probably
for sure.
secretly cheering that you named that bar.
Oh yeah, there's a few that we actually met at that bar. So
my wife is from St. Michael, Albertville, and her parents live in Monticello. I'm not going to venture out there. It's not something I'm like, oh, let's go find this bar. But I'm sure there are people that you'll meet up there. So now we're closing the gap, kind of KLRE, kind of going this way. Mm-hmm. High school, you graduated in Atlanta, moved back, saw your future husband sitting on the doorstep. Yep. What did you do after high school then? So you moved back and then?
So I moved back and then I nannied.
Okay.
I nannied and then I worked at a school as a school nurse. Front desk girl.
Your story just keeps
just getting weirder and weirder, doesn't it?
So school nurse.
Yep.
Did you have to go to school?
No, it was bizarre. So it was a charter school, and you just had to be overseen by a school nurse. So if you have a wiggly tooth, if you have a Band-Aid issue, I'm your girl.
This is before WebMD and Google.
Oh yeah,
like Google. Yep. So you just had to figure this out.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so you were an untrained school nurse.
Yes, I was.
And then what happened there?
Yeah, then actually, this is where the story begins.
Okay.
It hasn't begun yet.
It keeps going. I love it.
So my husband and I bought our house. It'll be 19 years on Halloween.
Okay.
And our realtor.
In Monticello?
Big Lake.
Okay, Big Lake. Okay.
Yeah. And our realtor, who, fast forward, I worked for the real estate company, she called me up one day and she's like, hey, do you want to be on my volleyball team at Hawks Sports Bar?
Okay.
And I was like, sure, this is kind of weird, but we don't know anybody. Why not? And we got talking and she says, I'm adopting a baby. Single woman adopting a baby from Kazakhstan. And I was like, okay, cool. She's like, but I need a nanny. Like, I don't know what to do. Me, dumb, 20-year-old's like, well, I'll quit my job and be your nanny. She's like, well, I can't pay much. I'm like, I don't care. Really silly. But so I nannied her from when she came home when she was 9 months until she was 6.
Yeah.
And fell in love, and that's how we started our adoption journey.
Yeah. So that's where you got the idea of like, hey, this adoption process could.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And are you still connected with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I worked for her for 6 years, and her daughter.
While doing real estate, or you were just nanny for 6 years? No,
I'm sorry. I worked for her real estate company for 6 years, but I nannied for her for 6 years.
At the same time, doing both? Oh, wait.
Yeah.
So wait, you nannied first for 6 years, and then you started working doing real estate. So your pathway to real estate was
set long before I
windy.
Knew it was. Yes.
So it wasn't like, hey, I want to start selling houses.
Right.
It was.
She said, oh, well, Zaria's going to school now. So have you ever thought of real estate? And I was like, no. And then I started.
That is great.
Then I thought about it.
Yeah. And then along the way, I mean, did you have this itch to figure it out, or did you kind of just stumble into real estate? Sometimes a lot of people that are here now had a job and then pandemic and then kind of were forced into this, or kind of talk about your pathway to discovering this, because you're successful in it.
Right.
So sometimes people have set goals, and it just sounds like your path's a little windy where, I kind of stumbled into being awesome at this.
I don't know about that. But.
No, but talk about that, because I think there's people that would benefit from always wondering, am I in the right place or not?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're more of a free spirit, like, oh, sure, I'll quit my job and do that.
Exactly.
Sure, I'll do real estate.
Yep.
And I know that there's a gap between, you didn't say, sure, I'll be top 10. So at some point, you discovered that what your gifts were actually benefited the work that you're doing. And so talk a little bit about that.
So it was actually a really like a pivotal moment that I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it all. So when I first started real estate, both my husband and I were in real estate. He was working on the transaction coordinating side, and I was selling. And we both quit our jobs and we took a leap of faith. Our kids were 2 and 1 at the time, or just turning 1. And I remember we didn't have any money, no money. I went to Target and was deciding between like food for the family, like meat, or my son really wanted Fruity Pebbles. And I sat there in the Target line going, I can't afford Fruity Pebbles for my son. And I cried, and my little kid's like, what's going on, Mommy? I just want Fruity Pebbles. And I'm like, I have to make this decision. And then I'm going, I adopted these children to give them a better life. I chose this career, and I'm willy-nillying it.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I was like, my kid will never have to go without Fruity Pebbles. $4 box Fruity Pebbles basically changed my life. And ever since then, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah.
And
how long were you in it at that point?
About a year.
So you were kind of just coasting through.
Yep.
Until
just making enough to get by.
And then there's a moment where you're like, okay, I got to take this seriously.
Yep.
I'm inspired by that, because I always think if you can trace it back to a moment in time where things shift.
Yeah.
When you move forward from anything in life and you have to rethink about why you got started, you can go back to the $4 Fruity Pebbles.
Right.
Because a lot of times people drift and they're like, what am I doing? And then they coast. And so I just love that you're able to draw on that. And so anytime things get fuzzy, you're like, you know what? $4 Fruity Pebbles. Like that's what got me here. Yep. And so that was a year into it.
Yeah.
So doing the math now, you've been in almost 10.
It'll be 9 years this year.
9 years this year. So looking back at that kind of 9-year journey of real estate that started with Fruity Pebbles and gets you to the top 10 in sales at Chris Lindahl Real Estate. Yep. Is there another story where that was a turning point or something that said, you know what, I'm good at this? Because at the beginning, it's like, I need to do this.
Right.
My back's against the wall.
Yep.
And then is there a story you're like, you know what, I'm pretty good at this. I can crush this.
Yeah. I can't think of one specific moment like the Fruity Pebbles, but it was like every appointment that I was going to, every buyer's appointment or listing appointment, people were signing and people were excited and people were like, yeah, I want to do this. I had one client, and I'll never forget, her name is Stacy, and we were showing houses, and she goes, I feel like I'm looking at houses with my best friend, and we just met yesterday. And so that was kind of like, I think I've got something here. Like, I got the right personality for that, I guess. I
think it is. I've seen some success with a lot of people that I don't have any of the data, but a lot of the people that are doing really well have been former service industry or bartenders. I agree with that. Because you know how to work with people. You know how to make them feel at home. You know how to kind of calm their nerves. And it's almost more of an art without alcohol. Right. You have to calm their nerves on, this is a huge transition in their life, trying to buy or sell a home. And for you to be able to calm them down and say, oh, not only is the process fun, I feel like I'm friends with you. Right. Give us a little bit, what are the tips of the tricks of the trade that you've learned? How do you build that type of rapport in a day where they're saying, oh, I feel like we've known each other longer. Yeah. And then you know that, hey, maybe if this house won't work out, we can see a little more because we have this. Right. This I do a lot of listening. Okay. I don't say a whole lot. I listen. Like, in all of my real estate world and just life in general, I've realized that people just want to be seen and they want to be heard. Okay. And so if I listen to them and I can validate what they're saying, I think that just is helpful. Listening it's a huge tool. Do you have specific questions that Or your go-to, like, okay, this is going to give me a lot of nuggets if I ask this question at this time?
It's hard to say because it's just so natural all of a sudden, like for so long. I always ask about like why they want to move, where they're moving to, about their family. Usually you just ask, like, tell me what's going on, and they divulge everything. And you're like, well, I didn't need to know about that, but okay.
Have you had it not work out like that where you're trying and it feels like pulling teeth?
Yeah. There's a certain personalities that I'm just like, let me in, talk to me. Most of them are engineers. And
I like that you've already put these categories.
And I'll ask him that at my listing appointments. I'll say, what do you guys do for work? That's one of my first questions.
Yeah.
Because if he's an engineer and she's an artist, I'm like, okay, I need to go all into data and talk about charts and graphs. And
so you picked that up over experience.
Correct.
Okay. Because I think that's another helpful thing for people to know is if you have to collect information from your previous experiences.
Yeah.
So something along the way said, oh, engineer, artist.
Yeah.
I'm going to highlight these things and not these things.
Right.
How much would you say your success is tied to just understanding the people and what other factors are leading to your success?
I would say like 95% is all about
95% is understanding people.
Just getting it, marrying, matching their behaviors, making them feel comfortable, and everything else just falls into place. I mean, you have to have some knowledge of real estate and knowing what you're doing, but I think that shines through when you just talk to them.
And this is true. I mean, I studied public speaking and I studied, presenting and these types of things. What they say is if you appear to be knowledgeable, but have rapport, people will put up with your ignorance sometimes. Which don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying don't learn these things.
No.
But I think it just says, where are we putting our focus? And you're saying, hey, if you got 10 chips, put 9 of them on understanding your client.
Yeah, absolutely.
And serving your client.
I was just mentoring an agent yesterday and she was really, really nervous. And I said, you're doing this yourself. I'm just going to sit back. And if I need to jump in, I will.
Yeah.
So nervous. And we just started having a conversation with the client.
Yeah.
And when we left, she goes, oh, I was worried about numbers and all this stuff, but really I just needed to talk to him. And I was like, yeah. And she got it signed and she's going to do great.
A couple of things in that. I love that you're mentoring these newer agents and that you can literally walk through it because you were with that person, right?
Yes.
So it's different than saying, hey, next time, here's a list of things. So there's something to be said about being in relationship and being in the room and that type of support. What things do you draw out of helping others in their journey? It
keeps me sharp.
It keeps you sharp.
Yes.
Say more.
Yep. If they're, when they go through things and they talk and I'm like, oh, I used to do that. I should do that some more. Or it just reminds me, because I still get down on myself and I'm like, I haven't written a contract. I haven't gotten an offer accepted in a week. Like, what is going on? I might as well go work for Grubhub,
Yeah.
And then I go to a listing appointment with another agent and I go, wow, she's really doing a great job. She's doing exactly what I told her to, and it's working. And it just keeps me going and going.
So you see the fruit of your investment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think having what I'm hearing is that you have a learning posture at all times.
Right.
So you never, hey, I made top 10.
Yeah.
Let me be the teacher.
It's so silly. Like when people,
I'm the teacher.
No.
But I think that people need to understand that humility leads to learning. And if you think you have it all together, even if you are top 10 or whatnot, you still have to find ways to be humble and to serve other people.
Yeah. And I tell the new agents, I'm like, there's so much beauty in saying, I don't know, or you know what, I really messed up. I'm going to get that corrected. I say it all the time.
Yeah. So talk about a big problem that happened with a client and that you had to apologize. Talk about kind of what the context was. I'm sure you try to slide it under the rug. You're like, maybe I should just not tell him or whatever.
Yeah.
And then making that decision too. And then what did you say? And then how did it end up?
So I can't think of one specific thing, but it's always just little things here and there. Like, oh, I forgot to order the photographers and you wanted them today and they won't be able for next week, little things like that. And just, we're human. And sometimes I think they forget that we're human and we have a life, and it's just, hey, you know what? I'm really sorry I forgot to order your photos. We can't get them till Monday, which means we can't go live this weekend.
Yeah.
I apologize. And usually people aren't used to people just apologizing and taking ownership.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, what?
Isn't
okay.
that sad?
It really is.
People like don't know how to react. Like they're ready to yell at somebody. They're yelling at you like, you're right. I'm sorry. I messed up. And then they're used to someone pushing back and them fighting. They're like, okay.
And there's nothing to say, right?
And so you're saying that works.
Absolutely.
And it works.
It works everything. Sometimes even just in your relationship, you and your husband are fighting, and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I did screw up. Sorry.
Hold on a second. I'm here. I think I'm hearing something
I know.
that your normal life and how you work in your normal life actually translates to how you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here's why I kind of say that kind of like that. I think people make work out of something that shouldn't be work.
Mm-hmm.
And part of my role here is to help people understand if you are who you are and consistent all the time, you don't have to think about who's in front of you.
Right.
You don't have to say, oh, wait, is this a client or is this my friend? No, if you are confident in who you are, it doesn't matter if you're in front of a client or a cashier at Target or a coworker. You don't have to do those mental games. You can just be you.
Right.
So part of your success has been, I feel like you have this confidence, but it's not this arrogance. It is, I know who I am, and who I am and my success is not dependent on you. So you can be in the room with me. I'm okay with that. It plays out in a couple of different ways that you mentor other people. Usually people that are arrogant say, no, I'm good. I don't need you. But you've already said that when you teach, you actually learn. So what keeps you there? Like what keeps you in that space, in that posture?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's bizarre when people are like, oh, you were number one. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. I might like, you don't know how dark someone's dark was. And so you have to celebrate their light, because it's like, you have no idea if, you yourself, we're in a really bad place last week. So let's just celebrate your successes this week.
Yeah.
But I have really I have the same friends since I was in middle school and, elementary school. My best friend I met in second grade.
Yeah.
And they're the first ones to be like, you need to check yourself, but
so you have people that are able to call you out.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Doesn't happen often, because I think it's the silliest thing, like that when you're like, do you want to do this top 10 podcast? I'm like, well, why me? Like, I'm just Jill from Big Lake. I'm nobody special.
But that's part of it. I think knowing Jill from Big Lake, you're not trying to be anyone other than yourself. In a weird, who knows how way that leads to success.
Right.
I truly believe that the foundation of success is in confidence of who you are, what gifts you have, and how you use them. Super simple. We make it really complicated. When you think about where you are now and the journey there, some people have this like competitive drive. I don't hear it. It's more of, hey, my back was against the wall, and now I find myself as a very successful person. Talk about drive, because it's not a competition. I don't hear that. Like, what drives you towards that?
Well, my family, first of all. My husband's on the fire department.
Okay.
And so he's running here and there all the time. He's also does some back end work for me in real estate because he has his license as well. And I just know that if I fail, my family fails. And I can't have that on me.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
No, and that's it. I think that's a real healthy pressure that you put on yourself. And I feel like you've been able to handle that pressure in a winsome way that is actually inspirational.
I also, every year at the beginning of the year, so we're doing it right now, setting obtainable goals.
Okay.
Last year it was to pay off some debt, and now we did that. So now it's next year. What are we going to do? Yeah. And I know some people will do these goals that are just crazy. Like the company that I came from was, how many houses do you want to sell now double that. That's what you're going to do. And I'm like, I don't want to double that, And so setting these obtainable goals so you can reach these little ones, because once you don't reach a goal, then it's like, well, the rest of the year's shot.
Yeah.
So like little things here and
can you share a couple of those? So going into the next year, what are some of your goals?
So usually my husband and I go away and we like business plan essentially for us and for our family. So we haven't done that right yet, but some of the things that we're doing next year is I'm getting a new car in February. And so I want to pay cash for that. So we now are saving for that. We always take the kids on a trip and then we go on a trip together. Yeah. So doing that, and we pay cash for everything. Yeah. And then we donate it's called Metro Women's Center. Yeah. And it's where our children's birth mother went to go make her adoption plan. Yeah. And so we always donate, and every year we try to double our donation from last year.
I love it that your goals are personal, that they benefit not just you, but they benefit others. And I think that's the connection that I see between people that are successful in business or in life in general, is that their focus is not just themselves. And so I just want to affirm that, hey, keep those goals. And I think someone told me that you have, is it a Tesla that you're saving up for?
Yep.
A Tesla? Yep. Okay.
I've been buying it. And I'm really nervous about this, actually.
Why?
Because it's I feel like it's so showy, and that's not who I am. And so I'm like, okay, it's going to be fine. It makes economical sense for me, but I'm a little nervous about it.
And here's the other thing, and I don't think it's an issue for you, but in times of insecurity, some people I don't want people to think about that, but in times of confidence, I think an important thing that people can show is how you can be confident and not cocky. There's a fine line between loving yourself and being in love with yourself. Yeah. And it's gonna play out in how you walk to the car. Because part of it is gonna be like, I'm walking to my Tesla, or I'm gonna wait until I walk alongside of someone who's next to me. It's like, no. Or you can say, you know what, I earned this. I worked on my tail off to do this. I saved for it. And I'm gonna show people, hey, there's a way to own nice things without thinking I'm better than someone else. And so that is something that I've noticed about you. It's not like, oh, she's better than anyone else. No, she's the best at being her, and that spills over. Yeah. And that's what people are getting. And so I'm grateful for this conversation, because I think a lot of the agents can glean some of your wisdom. And so on that note too, just imagine your journey. What are a couple things that you wish you knew when you were getting started? Because if people can capture this at, in the first few months of this journey, what are a few things that you wish you knew when you got started?
Make a budget. Don't spend all your commissions right away, and just do it. Like jump in, especially here where when I started, it wasn't here are all these leads, go make some money. It was door knocking, picking up a phone book and calling people out of the phone book. I mean, it was a hard grind. And if you sold 2 houses a month, you were doing good. Yeah. And so here I see all this opportunity for everybody. And I'm like, just do it. Jump in. Take those leads. Fail. Learn, And so I would say, those 3 things are huge. Okay. Save. It's so easy. I always say, take your first paycheck and just blow it on something stupid. Like if you want a new purse, go buy a new purse. If you just go do something stupid with it, get it out of your system.
I'll get it out of your system. Because you just said be wise with your budget. But when your first commission check, go buy something stupid. I'm like, okay, now that makes sense.
Yes. Get it out of your system.
Get it out of your system, and then be wise with it. Understand it. Long-term. Think long-term. Yep. Which leads to this question for you. Successful. I'm sure you could be successful anywhere. For you, Jill, why KLRE?
Opportunity.
Opportunity.
Yeah, hands down. I don't know any other company, even not just real estate, that you can go in and make however much money you want. Okay. And I mean, we work hard, but.
You work hard. And so your hard work is paying off.
Yeah.
Well, grateful for the conversation. I think we got a lot of nuggets of wisdom in there. Thanks for inviting me into your journey of your life and adoption. And I just know that outside of the real estate wisdom that you've shared, I'm sure there are people that are watching this or listening to this that, have considered adoption or really have a heart for adoption, can they reach out to you if they got questions? And if people are considering a Tesla, like,
yeah,
and I just know just your posture and what you know, I'm sure people can reach out to you
for sure
to learn about real estate. Well, last thing I want to do is I did a little research on kind of the things that you love.
Oh boy.
And there's a reason someone calls you two bottle Jill. I don't know. But I did want to give you a bottle of red wine here. I was told this is a great bottle of wine.
Well, thank you.
And then maybe we could share a bottle of wine. And I'd love to hear more of your story, but just grateful for your time. I know you're a little nervous about the interview, but for the first one, you're setting the bar high as you are just being successful here at KLRE, but grateful for the conversation.
Thank you.
All right.